Welcome to another episode of the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm being joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are we doing today? It's Friday evening, last show before Christmas.
I'm excited about the holiday weekend and football.
Yeah, we have a huge day coming up on Saturday. We have a bunch of NFL games. We got only like 3 on Sunday. Then we got a game on Monday. It's going to be a big NFL weekend. Also, we have a lot of NBA games going on. I guess we'll hit into that later on the show. Like I said, on Tuesday, this is going to be a pretty interesting show. The lineup we got looking at is talking about Thursday Night Football. We're talking about the Immaculate Reception, which today is the 50th anniversary of one of the greatest plays in NFL history. Talk about some Patriot news. It's a pretty packed show tonight, but let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about last night's game because the only word the only word that can come across my mind for that game is pitiful when it comes to that, because Zach Wilson got replaced for the second time this season. And, I guess it was deserved. Fans were booing him constantly throughout the first half. He only completed 50% of his throws, 9 of 18 for 92 yards. He threw an interception, but that interception didn't mean anything. Ended the half, bomb. I don't really count that at all. On a scale of 0 to 100, QBR-wise, he had a 5.2.
Jay.
Single digits.
That's pretty bad.
That's I think that's one of the worst in NFL history. A passer rating of 41.9. They brought in their 4th string quarterback from the preseason, who had a pretty good preseason, Chris Streveler. He had a pretty good preseason. He comes in, 4th string quarterback. He's been on the practice squad all year. They bring him up for this one game, and you hear the crowd roaring with applause. The offense gets going. We see a few first downs here and there. Seems like the Jets are playing hard. They didn't score after the first quarter, but it seemed like everyone was playing a little bit harder when Chris Streveler was in there. So, do you think the Jets should replace Zach Wilson permanently moving forward this season and going into next season? Do you think they should replace him with somebody new?
I think yes. I do. I feel sorry for him, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be terrible, right? New York is vicious in terms of the media for sports, and they've been tough on him, really tough, and some of it's deservedly so. He is a young guy. I mean, he looks like a kid out there. I mean, he looks like he's in, freshman in college or something. He may mature into something really good. I mean, he does have talent. I mean, he has athletic ability. He doesn't seem to be able to get it together out there, and he's had quite a few chances now. So, might be best for both him and the Jets if they move on. So,
yeah,
I think a lot of people are thinking that's what's going to happen. So.
To me, I've been hearing this a lot, and I very much agree with it. Zach Wilson, if you take a look at it between him and Jamarcus Russell from the Raiders, their comparison is eerily similar.
Yeah.
And Zach Wilson, honestly, just doesn't look much like an NFL quarterback. At least a starter, a backup, we can get into that debate, but he does not look like a starter at all.
He's tentative out there. He doesn't seem to be really confident in his own.
Right.
I'm sure his confidence is shaken.
Absolutely.
I mean, anybody's would be, given what he's been through.
Yeah.
You know?
When I take a look at it, it's not like he lacks arm talent.
No, he has a rocket arm.
It's just not all that accurate. That's the problem. And funnily enough,
he doesn't. He throws the ball. Sometimes it's accurate, but he throws it where he shouldn't.
Yeah,
he throws it into double coverage. He throws it up for grabs, and he's been intercepted quite a bit. Yeah. Every game, I think he's had an interception.
I don't have
multiple interceptions in some games.
Yeah, so. Especially the Patriots.
I mean, it's too bad. I mean, the end of last season, he looked like he was turning the corner, and he was going to be really good. And he got hurt at the preseason, and it took him a while to get back in there. And then when he did, he was okay. And then he just that Patriots game was what really hurt him.
And then he didn't help himself, especially in the post game of the.
By saying, but you know what? They should have coached him a little bit on that. You had a bad game. They're going to pick on you about that. Here's some lines for you. Nobody helped him.
Right.
Nobody helped him. He is only a second-year player.
Yeah. So, funnily enough, back in August, we had my brother on, John Harvey, and he had a pretty interesting take when the news of Zach Wilson getting hurt came out. This is what he had to say.
I think really what this year is about is Zach Wilson's development and the development of all these other young guys. Jets fans at this point are probably looking potentially at a new GM and a new quarterback next year. Not the first time the Jets have made a poor quarterback decision in the preseason.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, right? With Mark Sanchez.
Similar to Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
I mean, my hope would be that they hang around 500 and their young guys really progress at the rate they expect to. The question for me is if the Jets come out of the great gate and lose, say, 6 of their first 7 games, at that point, do you really just evaluate what's gone wrong? And in particular, if Zach Wilson's not playing well, do you then just kind of give up on this year and then look to this upcoming draft, which is a very highly touted draft for quarterbacks, and see what you can get for Wilson before his value totally disappears?
Really? You give up on Wilson after year 2?
I think the Jets have to be realistic about where he really is after 2 years of development. And given that there's not going to be another quarterback year quite like this for some time, I think they need to see if there's somebody available, especially if they end up with a top 1 or 2 pick, if there's somebody available that makes sense for them more than Wilson.
Now, while that was what my brother was mainly highlighting was coming from injury, see how he can come back from that. But a lot of the aspects of what he was saying, I completely agree with.
Yeah, me too. He kind of foreshadowed what has happened.
Exactly.
You know, the Jets have kind of hung around 500. Now they're a little below. And Zach Wilson hasn't progressed the way the rest of the team has, the young players. And I don't think the Jets will be getting rid of their GM, though. He actually had a very good draft this last year. Right, they picked up quite a few good players. Yeah,
that's probably the part I would disagree with. But when we're talking about the Jets as a team, that defense looks really, really good.
It is good.
Robert Saleh, we saw it when he was the defensive coordinator of the 49ers back in like 2019, 2020. He can coach defense. That we know that for sure. He just needed the pieces, and he drafted Jermaine Johnson, Sauce Gardner. He has DJ Reed. They got Jordan Whitehead from the Buccaneers through free agency. They also have C.J. Mosley. They have all these guys on defense, and they're very talented. And this season, we saw it. I mean, they held Mac Jones in that second game to 0 offensive touchdowns. And the only reason why they lost that game was Marcus Jones had an 84-yard punt return touchdown. So the defense is not the problem for the Jets, but it was last year. They have 133 rushing yards per game last year.
The defense wasn't so great last night. They gave up one really long drive there, right? A 98-yard drive.
The Jaguars could move the ball pretty efficiently against them. But
I mean, they only gave up 19 points. Right. It's not like they gave up a lot of points, but the Jets only scored 3 points. Yeah. And
when we're talking about the offensive side, because Robert Saleh is a defensive head coach, and usually, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, the defensive head coach is not really something that the NFL is moving towards. They're moving towards offensive. But on the offensive side, the O-line needs a little bit of work. You know, Mekhi Becton dealt with an injury this year, but the offensive line was able to pick up and cover some slack, and they've been generally good all year.
Yeah, they need a wide receiver.
I don't think so. I like Garrett Wilson. I like Elijah Moore. They might need a wide receiver 3 as sort of a replacement, but those 2 young guys are very good. Garrett Wilson is really becoming something. Elijah Moore seeming to do well after his rookie year last year. And then the running game. Breece Hall looked phenomenal when he played. He got hurt. And then...
No, they have a lot of good young players.
The problem is in the quarterback spot.
Yeah, they need a quarterback. They've had a tough time over the years having a really good quarterback.
They drafted Chad Pennington relatively high back in the early 2000s.
He played well for them for some time.
He got hurt. He actually won a comeback player of the year one year. He just couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
And then they have Geno Smith, Mark Sanchez. I believe one of the quarterbacks was Christian Hackenberg. He was supposed to be the next solution.
He never played a snap.
He played in the preseason. He could barely throw. He played like 54%.
They drafted him high too, right?
Very high.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to be the replacement for Geno Smith, and I think it was also Ryan Fitzpatrick when he was there. They had Brett Favre at the end of his career. They had a lot of quarterbacks, and I mean, I'm not going to count Brett Favre. He was way towards the end of his career, 2008.
Well, he was hurt. He got hurt when he played with them too.
Mark Sanchez, he was good for 2 years, and then he just fell off a cliff. They had Rex. I thought Rex Ryan was a really good head coach. He brought him to 2 championship games back to back.
Yeah,
he beat the Patriots in a playoff game.
I know.
And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, he was okay. They just never seem to be able to get the quarterback right. At least when it comes to the New York sports teams, for a while, the Buffalo Bills were a disgrace of an organization for a long part. They choked a bunch of every Super Bowl they've been in. They've absolutely choked it. They haven't made they didn't make the playoffs for several years. And then they got Josh Allen, and since for the past 4 or 5 years, they've been able to build a really, really good team.
Josh Allen's a pretty high level quarterback.
Absolutely, they were able to get it right. And then
he's better watch out though. He plays some brink of disaster running there.
He takes a lot of hits.
He takes some hits. He's going to wind up getting a concussion.
Yeah,
he's got to be careful.
And then when it comes to the Giants, Eli Manning was always consistent. I think he was consistent. I've gone into this extensively in the past, but just taking a look at the breakdown of his career, he's been consistently average to slightly above average. I'm not going to say he led a team to 2 Super Bowls. Well, 2011 he did, but 2007, 2011, he won 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. So they were able to have a consistently good quarterback.
Beat the Patriots both times.
Exactly. They had a consistently good quarterback over the course of 20 years.
How many Super Bowl rings would Brady have? Wasn't for the Mannings. He'd have 3 more.
Also, well, no, 2 more, plus Nick Foles.
Yeah, well, but I'm just saying the Mannings, right? If it wasn't for the Mannings, Brady would have 3 more rings.
Where's the third coming to play? You have Eli.
He got beat by Peyton Manning in the AFC Championship game.
2013.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 50. Yeah. I don't. Who was it? The Panthers? Oh no, the Panthers not played. That was the Seahawks. The Patriots were not going to beat the Legion of Boom that year. That was the year 2013 when I think Seattle beat them in that regular season game, and Richard Sherman had that. There was that big thing going on with Richard Sherman coming at Tom Brady or whatever, and then Brady got his revenge the following year. But the Jets have never seemed to be able to get the quarterback right. And the weird part about this, and I had no idea why. As soon as the season ended, and there were rumors talking about how they were going to move off Sam Darnold and draft another quarterback, I didn't hear a single other quarterback besides Zach Wilson. It was Trevor Lawrence number 1, Zach Wilson number 2. I didn't understand that whatsoever. Justin Fields, I thought, was better.
It's one thing
Trey Lance had a bigger upside.
You're talking about the Jets. Why don't they let Joe Flacco play?
He's old. Stop it.
So what?
Stop it.
It's win now right now. Joe Flacco's been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was 10 years ago.
So what? He has the experience. I think he would be better out there than Stripling or whatever his name is, that guy. Stradler. Yeah. So I don't know why they just don't let Joe Flacco play.
Because he's old.
So what?
He came into the game against the Bills. The first play he played a couple.
Look, he played a couple of games right at the beginning of the season. He was good.
He was good.
He was ranked right up there as one of the highest ranked quarterbacks after 3 weeks, right?
He was. He had a 1-2 record.
So why aren't they put him back in there? I don't get it. They should have let him play last night. I don't understand it.
Stradler did pretty well.
Chance to make the playoffs, Now,
not really.
No, well, that's right, because they didn't give him a chance. They should have let him play a couple of games. I think that would have been make more sense instead of thinking we're building for the future. Well, the future's right now. You have a chance to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, but they're going to lose no matter who they play. So,
well, you don't know that for sure.
Who are they going to beat? Okay, we're taking a look at the top of the AFC right now. I'm going to bring this in front of me. Let's say the Jets are the 7th seed, okay? Let's say they top the Chargers, okay? Are they going to beat who would be the number 2 seed? Kansas City. Are they going to beat Kansas City?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay, let's say for just the sake of argument, the Bills.
They beat the Bills once this year.
They did. They also lost to them the next.
Yeah, but they beat them once, so they're 1-1.
Cincinnati. You think they're going to beat the Bengals? No.
I don't know. I think the Bengals have been kind of hot and cold. They've been good lately. They've been very good lately.
Yeah. Baltimore. They're in the playoffs right now.
I think they could beat Baltimore.
They have a chance to beat it. I'll give you that. Tennessee? I don't think so.
I think they could beat Tennessee.
Okay, just for the sake of your argument.
Ryan Tannehill's out for the season now.
Well, okay, but let's just say, okay, in that case, let's say the Tennessee loses this week against the Texans, and let's say the Jacksonville Jaguars get into the playoffs. Are they going to beat Jacksonville? No, they just lost to them. Lost them by 16 points.
Well, anything can happen in a playoff game.
The Chargers, they're not going to be the Chargers either.
Yeah. Well,
The biggest chance Miami
I think if they, the last couple of weeks they played Flacco, get him going, and
not over Mike White. Not over Mike White. Mike White's better.
I don't know. Mike White gets hurt. I mean, he's had some bad injuries. He broke 2 ribs. They broke a rib on each side.
Well, in that game, I'm surprised he was even eligible. I'm surprised that he was even cleared to play.
He took a vicious hit there.
I'm surprised he was even cleared to play in that game. His doctors didn't approve him of last week and this week. So I'm shocked he stayed in that game. But when Joe Flacco came into that game, the first play, he fumbled it. So it's not like he had a chance. He had one play, he fumbled it. No. They had to bring in Mike White back. Battered and bruised Mike White. So I don't know if I would take it that far, but they need to find a solution to a quarterback, and Zach Wilson.
So far they haven't.
Ain't it? I mean, this guy Chris Strevelin, he was a backup quarterback for the CFL. Wasn't even a starter in the CFL.
He played well in the preseason.
He did. He did play very well.
Actually, they had some exciting games in the preseason, and he was quite exciting. And I'm okay with him, but I think that. I'd be okay with him if they were already out of it, I think. But if they're still in it, I would give Joe Flacco a try. He played well in the first 3 weeks.
You have a lot to say.
Sorry about that.
He has a ton of experience. He's been to a Super Bowl. Yeah, I think he could do better. I think he would do better than what they've been doing. For sure. He couldn't do worse.
Yeah. So, I mean, the second part, or I guess the next part of this would be, Zach Wilson just didn't fit into what New York was looking for. They were looking for a solidified quarterback to make the plays that were crucial to them, and Zach Wilson, being 22 years old last year, just couldn't live up to it, and New York is vicious. They could not let this go. I mean, we still heard like some people were hopeful because at the end of the year, the last 5 games, he threw 3 touchdowns, no picks. And they were looking some upside, and then you see it right now, and it was the running game that was the super successful part of this team early on, getting them the wins. And then Zach Wilson, it was all up to Zach Wilson to perform when Breece Hall got hurt, and he just didn't really deliver. And then New York media and just the New York fans were ripping on him. And then he was getting booed all game. This game, he got benched once, he got benched.
I'm sure
the
he'd be happy
time.
to go to some other team.
Just what other team would pick him up?
Somebody will pick him up.
As what, their starter?
Maybe not the starter. Maybe he has a chance to compete for starting role.
If Bruce Arians was the head coach of the Bucs, I would say he might go there. Because I think Zach Wilson and Bruce Arians will work pretty well. Because Zach Wilson's he's
Bruce Arians isn't the head coach
No,
anymore.
that's what I'm saying. If he was the head coach. Because I think Bruce Arians likes a gunslinger.
I mean, it's going to be good quarterbacks are hard to find.
Absolutely.
They're a scarce commodity. And he's still... Some people could say he's still a work in progress and deserve another chance maybe in a spotlight that's not quite so big.
Right. No,
and he might do better that way.
Yeah. Well, you got anything left?
No, that's it.
All right.
For me.
So let's move on to our next topic. So like I mentioned earlier today celebrates the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. And I think we have it here, but let's take a look at what's considered one of the greatest plays in NFL history.
Last chance for the Steelers. Bradshaw trying to get away. And his pass is broken up by Tatum. Tipped off. Franco Harris has it. And he's over. What? Franco Harris grabbed the ball on a deflection. 5 seconds to go. He grabbed it with 5 seconds to go and scored.
Let's watch this again.
1,000,000 to 1 odds on this one.
Ricochet out there off of Jack Tatum and into the man of the year, Franco Harris's hands.
Here's the miracle of all miracles.
From out of nowhere came Franco Harris, riding a white stallion, heading up Franco's Italian army, and galloping off into the sunset.
So, yeah, considered one of the greatest plays in NFL history, and a lot of people say that is the greatest play in NFL history. So I'm going to ask you, how do you remember this play and Franco Harris's legacy? Because he did pass away 3 days ago. And this Saturday, it's a commemorative game. The Immaculate Reception was Raiders-Steelers. Franco Harris's number would have been, or is going to be retired in this game. on Saturday. He passed away 3 days ago. So
Yeah.
how do you remember him and his legacy in the NFL?
Our condolences to his family, and he was a great player in the NFL, and he played for a dynasty. The Steelers had 4 Super Bowl rings.
He was a part of all.
Yeah, he was a part of all of them. He was a great football player, no doubt about that. And I was watching that game, the Immaculate Reception game, and I remember it as being shocked by it. Right, it was shocking that play happened, and he was able to score. I do think that this was a play that was before the instant replay. And looking at it, that would have been a score that the officials would have looked at. And whether the ball hit Fuqua, touched him, that would have made it a dead ball. And whether the ball touched the ground when he scooped it up is you can't. I don't think there's any play angle that shows whether the ball touched the ground or not. But that was something that a lot of people have talked about and wondered about. And I felt bad for John Madden, because he was the right. Raiders coach, and they had been, they had come so close a number of times. He had a Super Bowl ring at that point, but after that, they had come so close a number of times, and it looked like they were going to win this game, and then that happened. So that was a real deflation for Madden and the Raiders at that point, because they had a very good team, that's for sure. But the Pittsburgh was a dynasty. And that era, and Franco Harris was one of the faces of that dynasty, and will always be remembered that way.
Right. Well, he was also a Super Bowl MVP, and in this game, I think there were like 15 Hall of Famers on the field at that one time. You had Cliff Branch, you had Stabler, Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris. You had all these guys.
Joe Green.
You had all these super Hall of Famers, and then. People still consider this over the helmet catch, over the Edelman catch, over the Mario Manning, all these plays in NFL history, the Odell catch, the Santonio,
Santonio.
Yeah, that's his name. Holmes, his toe tap in the Super Bowl. All these plays, and people still put the Immaculate Reception #1 out of all those plays. Just
Malcolm
because
Butler's interception.
Even that play, they still put it #1 just because it's you never see that really like that. We see those plays. We get mad when we play Madden, and that happens.
Yeah. You know what he said? He said I always knew I should go where the ball was.
Right.
And he was in the neighborhood there, and the ball came to him.
Yeah.
And it was the Immaculate Reception.
I heard a soundbite while going over this over at First Take and all these other shows. He mentioned how he doesn't even know how he did it. It was just pure reflex.
Yeah.
He doesn't even understand how his body could react that fast. It was just boom, boom, and then he ran all the way. And he actually mentioned before how when it did get ricocheted, some Raiders were clapping like the play was over. And he said that that's what actually allowed him to score on that, because if they reacted just like he did, he probably would have been down to like the 7-8 yard line, not being able to score on that. So it was one of the. Where would you rank it as?
I'd give it #1. Yeah, I give it #1. It was shocking when it happened. It was so unexpected, and he made it to the end zone without. Because there were chances for the Raiders to tackle him, and he evaded them and made it to the end zone. He had a long way to run after he caught the ball.
Yeah.
Right? It was a long play. And, they almost got Bradshaw in the backfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was scrambling when he threw the ball.
Yeah.
And it was like a desperation pass.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Fuqua was well covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great play.
That was also his rookie year as well, where he won a bunch of awards. He was in the contention for MVP. He won Rookie of the Year. He was in contention for Offensive Player of the Year that year. He was an All-Pro that year. He made it to the Pro Bowl. Like I said, he won Rookie of the Year. So that year was he's a 9-time Pro Bowler, which, I mean, back then the Pro Bowl meant something. Nowadays,
they actually played the game.
Yeah, nowadays it doesn't mean that much, but he was one of the greatest running backs of all time, even though, he might not have the stats to put him near there. Just, like I said, 4-time Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl MVP. Not many running backs have that aspect of their career status, being a Super Bowl MVP. But 50 years, they're going to... I mean, it's crazy how 50 years, and now I guarantee the schedulers, whoever makes the schedule, put this in, have a 50 year later, have that same game against the same two teams. except now they're not in, what was it, were they the Los Angeles Rams back, or the Raiders, or were they still,
were
they Oakland?
No, they were the Oakland Raiders.
Oakland Raiders. So, while they're in Las Vegas now, it's the same two teams up against each other just 50 years later.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's amazing how fast 50 years went by.
Yeah, absolutely.
50 years, that's a long time.
Yeah. It's crazy to think how this is only going to be the second number retired by the Pittsburgh Steelers organization.
That's amazing, actually, given all the players they have.
I think Terry Bradshaw still doesn't have his number retired either.
Who's the other player that has a number retired?
I am not, it's probably, let's see. If I had to guess, it would probably be
Joe Green.
Yeah, that's what my guess would be. Because there's only one. Okay, so it would have been three. I'm sorry. It would have been three. Ernie Stautner and Joe Green. Yeah.
Okay.
Only two Steelers. Franco has to be the third.
I should think they'd retire Bradshaw's number.
That's what I would think, too.
Come on.
It's been a very long time.
Plus, he's getting old, too, Why not retire his number?
It's a good question. And it's crazy because...
They have some other players. Lynn Swan, Stallworth. They had some very good players. Rocky Blyer, Franco Harris, Mel Blount. I'm amazed they haven't retired more numbers.
It's really crazy, and it's a head scratcher how they only have two numbers, and now it's going to be three. Only retired in that team because some sports organizations, they have one great player, they have a couple great players, they're getting their numbers retired regardless. But Steelers, they've kept it as a true reserved aspect of their team is to have your number retired. So now Franco Harris will go down as the third Steeler number retired.